You don't have to come, honestly. Just stay where you are. Those were the first words my mother said when I called to confirm my Easter plans. No warmth, no excitement. Just a blunt dismissal wrapped in a forced chuckle, as if rejecting her son on a major holiday was a casual inconvenience, like forgetting to pick up the dry cleaning. I leaned against my kitchen counter, staring at the half-packed gift basket I'd carefully assembled. I had filled it with their favourite wine artisanal chocolates and a few handmade candles I'd picked up from a local market. I had even printed a few recent family photos to tuck in, thinking it might remind us all of better times. Clearly, I had misread the room. Wait, what? I forced a chuckle, trying to mask the sting. You're kidding, right? I already took the time off, Mom. 3 hours of driving, remember? She hesitated, the sound of muffled voices bleeding through the line. I caught a whisper, Olivia's sharp and irritated like a wasp trapped under a glass. It's just... Olivia feels things have been tense lately. She doesn't want any drama this year. Mum said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You know how she gets. Of course, Olivia, the golden child, the family son around which all planets must orbit. The sister who once borrowed my college savings to fund her semester abroad, promising to pay me back when she made it big. Spoiler alert, she never did. But she had a remarkable talent for rewriting history, turning every slight inconvenience into a personal tragedy. I should have known. The last few months had been a slow, grinding reveal of just how little my presence meant to my family. It started with small things, forgotten calls, missed birthdays, a steady decline in invitations to family dinners. I had brushed it off, told myself they were busy, that life was just pulling us in different directions. But this being uninvited to Easter a day we had celebrated together, my entire life was a different kind of wound. Fine, I said, my voice tightening despite my best efforts. But if I'm not welcome, then maybe I should stop paying your bills too. Silence. I heard the clink of glassware in the background, the muffled laughter of relatives already gathering without me. For a moment, I imagined my mother standing in the kitchen, one hand on her hip, eyes narrowing as she processed my words. What do you mean? She finally asked, her tone cautious. I leaned back, letting my head hit the wall. I felt a bitter smile creep onto my face. You know exactly what I mean, Mom. The utilities, the internet, the streaming services, all those temporary payments I started covering when Dad got laid off. The ones you said you'd take over once things got better. Well, they never did, and I'm done being your silent ATM. I could hear her breath catch the faint rustle of fabric as she lightly clutched her chest in the dramatic fashion only my mother could manage. Wait, you can't be serious, she whispered, her voice suddenly trembling. I pushed off the wall, grabbing my keys from the hook by the door. Check your apps, I said, my thumb already hovering over the cancel button in my banking app. Happy Easter, Mom. I ended the call, my heart hammering in my chest, the echo of her stunned silence still buzzing in my ears. For the first time in years, I felt a strange electric thrill, a jolt of self-respect rising through the cracks of my long-buried resentment. As I slid into my car, I imagined the scene back at my parents' house. Olivia smirking behind her wineglass, whispering something acidic into Mum's ear. Dad, oblivious, probably already on his second beer, still believing I was the ungrateful one for not showing up to play the supportive sibling. I hit the confirm button, officially cutting the financial umbilical cord that had tethered me to their quiet, passive-aggressive demands for years. A notification popped up on my phone. Payment cancelled electricity, payment cancelled internet, payment cancelled water. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat and pulled out of my driveway, tires crunching against the loose gravel. The road ahead stretched out in front of me, long and empty, the afternoon sun casting sharp, clean shadows across the cracked asphalt. As I sped away, I felt the tight, vice-like grip of obligation loosen around my chest. For the first time in years, I was free. The call started just after I crossed the city line, my tyres humming against the cracked pavement as I merged onto the highway. First, a flurry of text messages, their notifications piling up like raindrops on my windshield. Then the actual calls began, Mom, then Dad, then Olivia, each one more insistent than the last. I ignored them all, my phone vibrating so hard it nearly slid off the passenger seat. About halfway through my drive, my dashboard lit up with a notification. New voicemail from Mom. I gripped the wheel tighter, forcing myself to breathe. I could almost picture her pacing the kitchen, her free hand pressed against her temple, like she had a migraine, whispering to Dad about how I had lost my mind. I pulled off at a rest stop, the kind with flickering neon signs, and a 24-hour gas station that smelled faintly of burned coffee and cleaning supplies. I parked by the edge of the lot, where the buzzing overhead lights barely reached, and hit play on the voicemail. "Sweetheart," she began, her voice shaking slightly, the forced calm of someone trying not to scream. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is not funny. Your sister's Wi-Fi just cut out and the power went off while we were about to sit down for lunch. Your father had to light candles, for heaven's sake. This is not how family treats each other. Call me back immediately." I leaned back, letting my head hit the headrest, a tight, bitter laugh escaping my throat. The irony was almost too much. This was the same woman who just an hour ago had effectively barred me from my own family's Easter gathering. Now she was scolding me for disrupting their cosy little celebration, the one I had been so clearly uninvited from. I flicked to the next voicemail, this one from Dad. "Son," he said, his voice gruff and slightly winded, like he had just climbed a flight of stairs. "I don't know what's going on, but this is childish. Your mother is upset, and your sister, well, she's just confused. Call us. Now." Confused? Sure, that made sense. Olivia had probably never considered the possibility that I might actually stand up for myself. In her mind, I existed solely to smooth over family conflicts, to provide a financial cushion whenever she hit a rough patch, to play the dutiful sibling who never complained. I deleted the message without a second thought, the small red trash icon feeling like a tiny act of rebellion. Then I scrolled to the final voicemail, Olivia's. Her voice hit me like a cold slap, sharp and full of venom. "Are you kidding me?" she practically screamed. "I have guests here. Friends, real friends, not just family, and the Wi-Fi just cut out in the middle of a live stream. Do you know how embarrassing that is? If this is your idea of a joke, then you've officially lost it. Fix this. Now." I let the voicemail play out, the sharp crackle of her anger crackling through my car speakers, and then deleted it too. I imagined her storming around the living room, her manicured nails tapping furiously at her phone, the flicker of candlelight casting sharp, angular shadows across her face. I took a deep breath, feeling a strange, warm calm settle over me. For once, I wasn't the one scrambling to fix things, to patch up the cracks in our family's fractured relationships. I wasn't the one swallowing my pride, biting my tongue, or pretending everything was fine. I was just done. I pulled back onto the highway, the dull hum of the engine vibrating through the seat, a steady, reassuring thrum that drowned out the chaotic noise of my family's frantic messages. I made it home just as the sun was dipping below the horizon, the sky painted in deep purples and bruised oranges, a final dramatic flourish to the day. I parked in my driveway, grabbed the half-forgotten Easter basket from my back seat, and let myself into my quiet, dark apartment. I set the basket on the kitchen counter, the cellophane crinkling in the sudden silence, and flicked on the lights. They blinked on immediately, bright and steady, without so much as a flicker. I pulled out my phone one last time, scrolling through the missed calls, the angry texts, the increasingly desperate voicemails. For a moment, I hovered over Olivia's contact, my thumb brushing the edge of the screen, the urge to respond, to explain, to justify my actions still simmering somewhere deep in my chest. But then I shook my head, dropped my phone face down on the counter, and walked into my living room. I kicked off my shoes, stretched out on my couch, and let the quiet wash over me. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. The next morning, my phone buzzed relentlessly on the kitchen counter, vibrating against the hard surface like a trapped insect. I ignored it, pouring myself a cup of coffee, letting the rich, bitter steam clear my head. It was a quiet, almost sacred moment, the first truly peaceful morning I'd had in years. I took my coffee to the window, leaning against the cool glass, as the sun crept over the horizon, staining the sky in soft, muted tones of gold and lavender. It felt surreal, this sudden freedom, this untethered calm. By the time I sat down on my couch, my phone had amassed a small graveyard of missed calls and unread texts. Mom, Dad, Olivia, even a couple of cousins who hadn't bothered to check in on me since the pandemic, but were now suddenly invested in my well-being. I scrolled through the notifications, my eyes skimming over the frantic accusatory messages. Mom, call me. This is getting out of hand. Dad, this isn't funny. You're acting like a child. Olivia, you ruined Easter, you petty little that one. Cut off probably hitting the character limit for rage. Aunt Lydia, hey, heard things got tense. Let me know if you need to talk. Aunt Lydia, the only one in the family who had ever really seen me. The one who had quietly slipped me $100 bill when I moved into my first apartment, whispering, "Don't let them weigh you down." I thought about calling her back, about breaking the eerie, satisfying silence I had wrapped around myself like a thick, warm blanket. But then I thought about the years of quiet resentment, the whispered conversations I had overheard at family gatherings, the way my sacrifices had been minimized and my efforts taken for granted. Instead, I slid my phone into the gap between the couch cushions, letting the fabric muffle the endless buzz of notifications. If they wanted my attention, they could earn it. I spent the rest of the morning reclaiming my space. I deep cleaned the kitchen, scrubbing away the stubborn grease stains I had ignored for months. I rearranged my living room, pushing the old, sagging couch against a different wall and pulling my small, beaten-up coffee table closer to the window. I even dug my old guitar out from the back of my closet, its strings dusty and stiff from years of neglect. I propped it against the wall, a quiet promise to myself to start living for me again, to reconnect with the parts of myself I had let atrophy in the shadow of my family's constant unspoken demands. Around noon, as I stood in my kitchen folding fresh, clean dish towels, my phone finally fell silent. The sudden absence of vibration felt like a small victory, a sign that they had finally run out of things to say, that they had exhausted their supply of guilt-laden messages and accusatory voicemails. I leaned against the counter, letting the silence wash over me. My mind drifting back to the dozens of family gatherings I had attended over the years, each one a slow, grinding reminder of my role as the family's emotional and financial crutch. I thought about the whispered conversations I had overheard, the snide comments Olivia had made about my single childless status, the thinly veiled pity in my mother's voice whenever she talked about my lonely apartment. I had always been the reliable one, the steady, responsible sibling who never asked for anything in return. The one who paid for their utilities, their streaming services, their late-night Amazon splurges. The one who had always been there, quietly absorbing their complaints, their financial crises, their self-inflicted misfortunes. But now, as I folded the last dish towel and stacked it neatly on the counter, I felt something hard and unyielding settle in my chest, a quiet, steely resolve I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't going back, not this time. Later that afternoon, as I sipped a second cup of coffee, my phone finally buzzed with a different kind of notification, an email this time, not another frantic voicemail or bitter text. I picked it up, my heart thudding against my ribs as I opened the message. From Olivia, subject, really? So this is how it's going to be. You're just going to ghost us all because you're too petty to handle a little family tension. I almost laughed, the absurdity of the message cutting through the last remnants of my lingering guilt. She had the nerve to accuse me of being petty, of being the one who couldn't handle tension, after she had effectively banned me from my own family's Easter celebration. I typed a quick biting response before I could overthink it. You made it clear I wasn't welcome, Olivia. I'm just respecting your boundaries. Consider this my way of staying out of your hair. Enjoy the peace and quiet. I hit send, feeling a strange, almost giddy sense of satisfaction as I watched the message vanish into the digital void. I tossed my phone back onto the couch, stretching my arms over my head as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long, thin shadows across my living room floor. I had no idea what the next few weeks would bring, what fresh dramas my family would concoct in my absence, what new ways they would find to twist the narrative and paint me as the villain in their tidy little family saga. But for now, in this quiet, sunlit moment, I felt free. 2 days after my silent stand, the first crack in my family's united front finally appeared. It came in the form of a text from my father, brief clipped and carefully worded, the digital equivalent of a white flag. Dad, son, can we talk? Just you and me. No drama. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen, the familiar pull of obligation tightening around my chest. For a moment, I imagined myself calling him back, letting him lay on the familiar layers of guilt of half apologies and carefully constructed excuses. But then I thought about the years of overlooked birthdays, forgotten promises, and unpaid debts, the way he had always defaulted to defending Olivia, even when she was clearly in the wrong. I dropped my phone back onto the couch, letting it bounce against the cushions. He could wait. I spent the rest of the morning cleaning my apartment, scrubbing away the small lingering traces of my old life. I threw out the expired condiments in my fridge, dusted the tops of my kitchen cabinets, and even rearranged my closet, shoving my old work suits to the back and pulling my long-neglected hiking gear to the front. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long purple shadows across my living room floor, I felt lighter, the heavy cloying fog of obligation slowly peeling away like old wallpaper. It was around 8 o'clock when my phone buzzed again, this time with a series of rapid, insistent notifications. I glanced at the screen, my heart skipping a beat as I registered the sender, Olivia. Olivia, I can't believe you're doing this. You're really going to ignore us, Olivia. This is your family. We're your family, Olivia. You don't just get to walk away. I felt my jaw tighten, my fingers curling into fists at my sides. The audacity, the sheer nerve of her to frame this as my fault, to paint herself as the wounded party in a conflict she had instigated. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to release the tension building in my shoulders, to let the anger flow through me and out the other side. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of a response. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again, this time with a notification from my bank. I frowned, swiping the screen open to reveal a series of small, rapid withdrawals from the shared account I had once set up for emergencies. $49.99, streaming service, renewal, $39.99, monthly internet fee, $89, cell phone bill. I felt a sharp, hot flash of anger spike through my chest, my pulse thudding in my ears as I scrolled through the list of recent charges. Olivia, or maybe even Mom, had apparently decided that my silent stand was just a temporary tantrum, a minor inconvenience they could brush aside with a few passive-aggressive texts and guilt-laden voicemails. I closed the banking app, my mind racing, my hands shaking as I struggled to process the sheer breathtaking audacity of their actions. They had effectively cut me out of their lives, banned me from family gatherings, and then had the nerve to keep dipping into my accounts like nothing had changed. I felt something snap deep inside my chest, a final decisive break in the fragile, fraying thread that had bound me to them for so many years. I opened my banking app again, my thumb flying across the screen as I navigated to the account settings, the small red cancel button practically glowing against the stark white background. I hit it without a second thought, the familiar chime of a completed transaction ringing through my phone like a bell tolling for the dead. One by one I cut them off, the streaming services, the internet, the cell phone bills, the long-forgotten Amazon Prime account I had apparently been paying for on Olivia's behalf for years. I paused for a moment, my thumb hovering over the final cancel button, the one that would sever the last tenuous financial thread connecting me to my family. Then I pressed it, my heart thudding in my chest as the screen flickered, the small blue confirm button flashing for a brief, tantalizing moment before disappearing into the digital void. I tossed my phone onto the couch, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps, my hands trembling with a strange, exhilarating mix of fear and relief. For the first time in years, I felt like I had finally taken control, like I had finally drawn a line in the sand, a clear, unmistakable boundary that they could no longer cross without consequence. I took a deep breath, letting the cool, still air of my apartment fill my lungs, the faint metallic taste of adrenaline still sharp on my tongue. I had no idea what the next few days would bring, what new creative ways my family would find to twist the narrative, to paint me as the villain in their carefully curated version of events. But for now, in this quiet, darkened apartment, I felt free. The next morning I woke to the quiet hum of my refrigerator and the soft creak of my aging apartment walls settling in the cool morning air. No buzzing phone, no rapid-fire notifications, no guilt-laden voicemails, just the slow, steady rhythm of my own breathing, the quiet, unremarkable sounds of a life untethered. I padded into the kitchen, the tiles cool against my bare feet, and poured myself a cup of coffee. I leaned against the counter, staring out the small fogged-up window over my sink as the first hints of daylight crept over the skyline, casting the buildings in soft golden hues. It felt strange, this sudden, unbroken silence, like the world had collectively decided to leave me alone for once. But of course it couldn't last. Around noon, my phone lit up with a new notification, the sharp, insistent chime shattering the fragile peace I had wrapped around myself like a protective shell. I picked it up, my thumb, hesitating for a brief, guilty moment before swiping the screen open. New voicemail from Mom. I hesitated, my pulse thudding in my ears, my mind already racing through the possible contents of the message. An apology, maybe, a reluctant admission of fault, or perhaps just another round of emotional blackmail, a fresh dose of guilt to drag me back into the fold. I hit play, my heart tightening as my mother's voice crackled through the tiny speaker. "Sweetheart," she began, her voice trembling slightly, the forced calm of someone trying desperately to control their anger. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but this has gone too far. Your sister is beside herself, your father is fuming, and the entire family is talking about this little stunt of yours. We raised you better than this. I don't know where this sudden selfish streak came from, but it needs to stop. Call me." I felt a sharp, bitter laugh bubble up in my chest, my fingers clenching around the edge of the counter as her words echoed in my mind. "We raised you better than this." The audacity, the sheer breathtaking hypocrisy of it all. I deleted the message without a second thought, my thumb pressing down on the small red trash icon with a final decisive click. Not 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed again, this time with a message from my father. "Dad, I don't know what your problem is, but this is getting ridiculous. We've supported you your whole life, and this is how you repay us. Fix this, now." I felt my jaw tighten, my teeth grinding together as the familiar suffocating weight of their expectations settled back onto my shoulders. For a moment, I felt the old instinctive urge to comply, to bend, to apologize, to smooth over the cracks in our fractured family dynamic. But then I remembered the years of quiet, unspoken sacrifices, the countless hours I had spent working overtime to cover their bills, The holidays I had spent alone in my apartment, the birthdays and anniversaries I had quietly funded without so much as a thank you. I deleted his message too. Later that afternoon, as I sat on my couch, strumming my long-neglected guitar, my phone buzzed again, the familiar, insistent vibration cutting through the warm, mellow chords like a knife. I glanced at the screen, my heart sinking, as I recognized the caller ID, Olivia. I ignored it, letting the call go to voicemail, my fingers tightening around the neck of my guitar as her name continued to flash on the screen, the small, insistent icon blinking like a warning light. When the buzzing finally stopped, I set my guitar down, my fingers still tingling from the steel strings, and picked up my phone. New voicemail from Olivia. I hit play, my heart thudding in my chest as her voice crackled through the speaker, sharp and brittle like glass about to shatter. "Are you serious?" She spat, her voice trembling with barely suppressed rage. "You're really going to do this? You're really going to sit there in your little apartment ignoring us, pretending like you're some kind of martyr grow up? Family isn't something you just walk away from." I felt my jaw tighten, my pulse thudding in my ears as her words dug into me like barbed wire. "And for what?" She continued, her voice rising in pitch, her breath coming in short, furious gasps. "Because we didn't want you at Easter, because we finally got tired of your brooding, self-righteous attitude. Get over yourself. You're not some misunderstood hero. You're just a bitter, lonely man who can't handle the fact that his own family is moving on without him." I felt a sharp, hot flash of anger spike through my chest, my fingers clenching into fists as her words echoed in my mind, each one a fresh, stinging slap to the face. I deleted the voicemail, my hands trembling with a strange electric mix of rage and relief, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped animal. For a moment I sat there in the sudden oppressive silence of my living room, my mind racing, my pulse thudding in my ears. Then slowly, carefully, I stood up, my legs shaking beneath me, as I made my way to the kitchen, my bare feet slapping against the cool, tiled floor. I opened the fridge, grabbed a cold bottle of water and twisted the cap off with a sharp, satisfying crack. I took a long, deep drink, the icy liquid soothing my raw, burning throat, my mind slowly beginning to clear. I wasn't going back, not this time. I set the empty bottle down on the counter, the faint clink of glass on granite echoing through the quiet, sunlit room. For the first time in years, I felt free. A few days later, the first cracks in their united front finally broke open, like the thin, brittle ice on a forgotten pond. It started with a single, unexpected message from Aunt Lydia. "Aunt Lydia, hey, I heard about the situation. Just wanted you to know that I'm proud of you. I know it couldn't have been easy. Call me if you need to talk." I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the reply button, a strange, unfamiliar warmth blooming in my chest. Aunt Lydia had always been the odd one out in our family, the quiet, observant one who had somehow managed to escape the gravitational pull of my parents' toxic orbit. I typed a quick, shaky response before I could overthink it. "Thanks, Aunt Lydia, I appreciate it, really." I hit send, my heart thudding against my ribs as the message vanished into the digital void, the small, comforting warmth of her support lingering like the afterglow of a long-forgotten summer. But of course the warmth didn't last. The next day, as I sat on my couch, idly scrolling through old, half-forgotten playlists on my laptop, my phone buzzed again, the sharp, insistent vibration cutting through the gentle, nostalgic strains of my favourite college-era band. I picked it up, my heart sinking, as I registered the caller ID, Mom. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the green accept button, the familiar suffocating weight of obligation tightening around my chest. For a brief, traitorous moment, I considered answering, letting her lay on the guilt, the half-hearted apologies, the carefully constructed excuses. But then I remembered the years of quiet, unspoken sacrifices, the countless hours I had spent working overtime to cover their bills, the holidays I had spent alone in my apartment, the birthdays and anniversaries I had quietly funded without so much as a thank you. I let the call ring out my pulse, thudding in my ears as the familiar, brittle silence settled back over my small, sunlit living room. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again, this time with a new voicemail notification. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen for a long, agonizing moment before finally hitting play. "Oh, sweetheart." My mother's voice crackled through the tiny speaker, the forced calm of someone trying desperately to control their anger. "I don't know what's gotten into you, but this has gone too far. Olivia is in tears. Your father is beside himself, and the entire family is talking about this little tantrum of yours. You need to stop this. You're tearing this family apart." I felt my jaw tighten, my fingers curling into fists at my sides as her words dug into me like rusted nails. "This isn't you," she continued, her voice trembling with barely suppressed rage. "You're better than this. We raised you to be better than this." I felt a sharp, bitter laugh bubble up in my chest, my pulse thudding in my ears as her words echoed in my mind. "We raised you to be better than this." The audacity, the sheer breathtaking hypocrisy of it all. I deleted the message without a second thought, my thumb pressing down on the small red trash icon with a final decisive click. I tossed my phone onto the couch, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped animal. I wouldn't break, not this time. Later that evening, as I sat on my balcony, the cool night air washing over my bare arms, my phone buzzed again, the small, insistent vibration cutting through the soft, rustling whispers of the wind in the trees. I picked it up, my heart sinking as I registered the sender, Olivia. "Olivia, you're really going to do this. You're really going to throw away your family because of some petty grudge. You're pathetic." I felt my jaw tighten, my pulse thudding in my ears as her words dug into me like barbed wire. "Olivia, you think you're punishing us. You're just proving what we always knew, that you're bitter, lonely, and incapable of letting go. Call me when you finally grow up." I stared at the message for a long, agonizing moment, my fingers trembling, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. Then slowly, carefully, I hit the small blue block button, the final decisive click, severing the last tenuous thread that had bound me to my family for so many years. I tossed my phone onto the small metal table beside my chair, the cool, damp air washing over my flushed, trembling skin as I leaned back, my head tilting up to the clear, star-streaked sky. I took a deep breath, the cold, clean air filling my lungs, the sharp, metallic taste of freedom still fresh on my tongue. I wasn't going back, not this time. I stood up, my bare feet slapping against the cool, rough concrete as I made my way back inside, the faint, comforting creak of the balcony door settling into its frame, echoing through my small, quiet apartment. I grabbed my guitar from the corner, my fingers wrapping around the smooth, worn neck, and sank onto my couch, the familiar warm weight of the instrument settling comfortably against my chest. I strummed a few tentative chords, the soft, mellow notes filling the still silent air, the gentle rhythmic vibrations soothing the raw, aching wounds still fresh in my chest. I closed my eyes, my mind drifting back to the countless half-forgotten family gatherings, the whispered conversations, the quiet, unspoken resentments, the slow, grinding erosion of my self-worth beneath the constant, unending pressure of their expectations. And then slowly, carefully, I began to play the soft, mournful strains of an old, half-forgotten song slipping through my fingers, the notes spilling into the air like the first hesitant breaths of a long-dormant fire. For the first time in years, I felt whole. Story 2. I pulled into the dusty parking lot expecting to see the usual chaos cousins arguing over music, someone's toddler throwing juice, maybe Uncle Jack already on his third beer. Instead there was nothing. No cars, no voices. Just a fluttering napkin caught in the wind. For a second I thought I had the wrong place. I double-checked the message again on my phone. "Reunion Friday, 7:00 p.m. Vito's Bar and Grill. Can't wait. Mum sent 2 weeks ago. Today was Friday. The time was 7:02. I was exactly on time, for nothing. Inside, the hostess gave me a confused look when I asked about the Bennett family party. "Oh, that was last night," she said, scrolling the clipboard. I frowned. No, it's tonight. I paid the deposit. She shook her head. 16 people. Big cake. Custom menu. They were here. Private room back left. Your mum even brought name tags. I just stood there. I didn't say anything at first. Couldn't. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a last-minute change. It was deliberate. I walked back outside the summer air, suddenly stale. Dialed my mum. She picked up after 2 rings. "Hey, sweetheart," she chirped, like she hadn't just excluded me from the event I paid for. "Where is everyone?" I asked. A pause, a beat too long. "Oh, didn't you get the update? We moved it to Thursday. We figured you were busy." A fake little laugh. "Don't worry, we saved you some potato salad." I didn't respond. "Trevor, are you there?" she asked, still trying to sound casual. "I'm here," I said quietly, then hung up. Back in the car, I sat for a long time, not crying, not yelling, just stunned. I pulled up the bank app. 1-870, $40 the cost of the event. The venue, decorations, food, drinks, all charged to my card. I messaged my cousin Liam, who usually stayed out of family politics. "Me, did I miss something, Liam bro? They said you cancelled." "Sorry man, I should have asked." They told everyone I cancelled. They didn't forget me. They lied, planned the entire thing behind my back, replaced me. Let me rewind. The Bennetts aren't the worst family in the world, but they are the kind that pretends. Pretends we're close. Pretends every mess is an accident. Pretends that I'm just so strong and independent when they need something and too distant and sensitive when I draw a line. Growing up, my younger sister Cara was the favourite. She got into fights, dropped out of school twice, but it was always brushed off as finding herself. I graduated early, worked 2 jobs through college, and the most I got was "Well, we always knew you'd manage." I was the one who bailed them out. When Cara's car got repossessed, I helped cover the down payment on a used one. When Dad forgot to renew the homeowner's insurance and the pipes burst, I fronted the emergency repair fund. I didn't mind at first. I believed helping meant belonging. But that night outside the restaurant made it painfully clear I wasn't family. I was funding the family. I didn't go home. I drove, no destination, just the road headlights and my thoughts. Ended up parked at the edge of a strip mall an hour outside town. I stared at the dashboard clock. 9:48 p.m. Thought about all the times I showed up when they needed me, and how they couldn't even send a text before erasing me from my own plans. The next morning I did something I've never done. I sent a message in the family group chat. "Good morning. Since I apparently cancelled last night's event that I paid for, I'll be sending out invoices. Future reunions will not be on me. Consider this the last one I fund." Then I attached the receipt from the restaurant. No drama, no curse words, just facts. Within 20 minutes, the chat exploded. "Cara, what the hell, Trevor Mum? That's not how we handle things in this family." "Uncle Ron, you're seriously asking us to pay you back? You were always so generous. That last one was the most telling. Not you're wrong, not we're sorry. Just we were counting on you being a doormat." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and documented every transfer, every favour, every Venmo. Every time someone said, "I'll pay you back," and never did. Then I printed it, put it in a folder, wrote one word on the front in thick black ink enough. The next few days were weirdly quiet. No one called. Cara posted a cryptic quote on Instagram. "Some people just need to feel like a victim to sleep at night." I didn't comment. I didn't need to, because I was no longer trying to be invited to a table that only wanted me there when the check came. And something else happened that week. A letter, handwritten, from Aunt Marlene, Mom's sister. She's always been the black sheep, lived out west, rarely joined reunions. "Trevor, I heard what happened. I believe you. I've been there. Your mother and Cara pulled this same stunt with me years ago, used me, cut me out when I stopped paying. You didn't lose a family, you lost users, and that's not a tragedy, that's freedom. Love, Aunt M." That letter changed everything. Not because it made the pain go away, but because it made me realise the gaslighting wasn't new. They'd done it before, to others, and they'd do it again unless someone stopped them. I started looking at things differently. I was never just the helper, I was the enabler. And I was done. It didn't take long for the silence to turn into noise. By Monday morning, my mum sent a long email with the subject line, "Let's not blow this out of proportion." She used words like misunderstanding family values and "let's move on." But not once did she say the word sorry. That was the thing about my family. They never apologized. They just gaslit you until you felt bad for needing one. So I didn't reply. I just archived it. Then Cara called. Twice. I ignored both. Then she sent a voice message. Wow, so you're really doing this. You're seriously trying to guilt trip us like you're the victim. Trevor, nobody told you to pay for the whole thing. That was your choice. Don't be bitter just because you weren't the center of attention for once. That was the moment I knew there was no fixing this. They hadn't accidentally forgotten me. They didn't feel bad. They enjoyed it. They wanted me to feel small for noticing. I decided to go no contact for a while. No calls, no replies, just distance. That alone shook them more than any confrontation ever had. Because my silence wasn't passive anymore, it was a decision. A few days later, I got a text from Liam, the only cousin who didn't act like I owed him something. Liam, hey. Just want you to know I stayed quiet at the reunion. But I didn't know they were planning to cut you out like that. When I realized I felt sick, I didn't reply immediately. He followed up. I paid for my own plate. I thought you knew. Your mom told us you'd cancelled last minute. There it was again, the lie. They built their version of reality around my supposed absence and made sure no one asked questions. Because the truth would have made them look bad and that they couldn't handle. That weekend I did something petty. Not proud, not ashamed, just necessary. I logged into the family's shared streaming account, the one I had been paying for since 2019. I changed the password to not your bank 123. The next day I got 7 messages. Cara, Netflix logged me out. Did you cancel it, Mom? The Roku isn't working. Did something happen? Uncle Ron. Hey, bud, can you fix the Disney thing? I ignored all of them. The next day I cancelled the account entirely. No warning, no replacement, just a clean break. That same week I got a call from my bank. A flagged transaction. Apparently someone tried using my old debit info to pay for a spa day in a town I'd never been to. The booking name, Cara Bennett. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Even now, after everything, she was still using me. I called her, she didn't answer. So I messaged, you used my card for a spa day. Why? The reply came 5 minutes later. Relax, it was only temporary, I was going to pay you back. That same excuse, again, for the 100th time. Only this time I didn't respond. Instead, I screenshotted it, saved it, logged the unauthorized charge with the bank, and then I called a lawyer. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the pattern. The fraud, the manipulation, the rewriting of events. I wasn't going to let it slide again, and they had no idea what was coming. The next day I sent a message to the family group chat. If anyone has ever opened a credit card, bank account, subscription, or service using my name or payment info, you have 48 hours to disclose it before I file an identity theft report. I'm not asking again. That's when the cracks showed. Uncle Ron, why are you being so hostile, Mum? You're making a scene. We're family. Cara, you're seriously trying to ruin me over a pedicure. Grow up. Then silence. Because they knew I meant it this time. I followed through. Filed the report. Spoke to the fraud department. Sent my lawyer every screenshot, every receipt. By the end of the week, 2 accounts were frozen. 1 under Cara's name. 1 tied to my mother's address. I didn't call them. I didn't ask for explanations. Let them explain it to the detective when the paperwork arrived. That same weekend, I visited Grandma. She's the only one in the family who doesn't play games. Lives alone, bakes for everyone, keeps old letters in shoeboxes. I hadn't seen her in 6 months. When she opened the door, she hugged me like nothing had changed. But halfway through lunch, she looked me in the eye and asked, "Are you okay?" I paused. Then said they left me out of the reunion I paid for. She didn't ask which they. She didn't look surprised. Just said, "About time you stopped feeding wolves and expecting gratitude." Then she reached for her purse, took out a folded envelope and handed it to me. Inside was a check, half the reunion cost. "I can't fix what they did," she said, "but I can make sure you know someone noticed." I almost cried, not because of the money, but because someone finally saw me. Later that night, Liam messaged me again. "You've got more support than you think." Attached was a screenshot. Cara had posted a rant on Instagram. "Some people in your life are just bitter. They're not victims. They're manipulators playing hero." But in the comments, people were calling her out. "Didn't you borrow money from him for a year? Weren't you on his Netflix account for ever?" Wait, I thought Trevor paid for your car. Suddenly her curated image was cracking, and behind it, the truth. People say revenge is loud, flashy, explosive, but real accountability, it's quiet, clinical. Like watching a house fall one termite-chewed beam at a time. The final straw came when I received an email from my mom. Subject, this family is falling apart. Inside, she begged me to let it go. Said Kara was struggling, that we all make mistakes, that this isn't worth destroying your own sister over. I closed the email, didn't reply. Because if I've learned anything, it's this. When someone keeps hurting you but still expects access to your peace, they're not sorry. They're entitled. I took a walk that night. No phone, no noise, just the sound of my own steps. And I made a promise to myself, never again will I explain to people why I deserve respect. If they can't see it, they don't deserve access to it. It started with a knock on the door. Not loud, not urgent, just persistent. I opened it to find a man in a grey windbreaker holding a clipboard and a badge. Trevor Bennett? Yes. Detective Malik, Financial Crimes Division. You filed a report last week regarding fraudulent use of your information. I nodded slowly. We've reviewed the details. We're moving forward with formal interviews. First stop is your mother's residence. I blinked. So soon. Paper trail's solid. You've been more organised than most victims. If there's more, now's the time to add it. I handed him the folder I'd been updating, printed statements, screenshots, Kara's text about the spa. He flipped through them, gave a low whistle and said, "This isn't a misunderstanding. This is a pattern." That word hit different. Pattern? It wasn't just one card, one event, one lie. It was a lifestyle built on my silence. I called Grandma after he left. She answered on the second ring. "They came by already," she said calmly. "Your mum looked like she saw a ghost." Kara tried to act surprised, but she's not as good an actress as she thinks. I asked if they said anything. They tried to blame confusion, she said, tried to say they thought they had your permission. I scoffed. Of course they did. And I told them, she continued, if Trevor didn't want to press charges, you better thank the stars above. Because if it were me, you'd already be in court. I smiled. Thanks, Grandma. You don't owe them silence, she said gently. You already gave them your peace, your money and your dignity. Keep the rest for yourself. That same day, Kara messaged me. You think this makes you look strong? It makes you look like a coward hiding behind cops instead of talking to your own family. I didn't respond. She followed up. You're breaking Mum's heart. Then another. I hope you're happy. She's crying every night. Classic deflection. They always made it about her, the emotional mother narrative. Like her tears outweighed my years of exhaustion. I didn't reply again. And I think that scared her more than anything I could have said. By the end of the week, I was being accused of turning the family against each other. What they meant was people were finally waking up. Aunt Marlene messaged me again. I heard Kara's in trouble. She used my name to co-sign a payday loan last year. Didn't tell me until it defaulted. I thought it was a fluke, but now I'm not so sure. Uncle Don called. Said Kara had borrowed $2,000 from him for emergency tuition 4 years ago. She never paid him back and then ghosted. Even Liam admitted she'd asked him to sign off on a car lease 2 months before the reunion. Something's wrong, he said quietly. I didn't want to see it, but she manipulates us. I didn't gloat. I didn't say told you so. Because truth doesn't need a megaphone. It just needs oxygen. One night I walked into a small cafe near my new place. Ordered tea, sat down. A few minutes later, a woman tapped my shoulder. Trevor, she asked. I looked up. She looked vaguely familiar, maybe from high school. It's Zoe. I used to hang out with Kara. Ah, right. Kara's old roommate from when she was in cosmetology school. She sat down before I could say anything. I just want you to know she did the same thing to me, she said. Used my name to order supplies. Left me with a $600 bill. Told people I was unstable when I asked for it back. I blinked. I'm so sorry. She shrugged. I believed her for a while. Thought maybe I was the problem. But after what happened to you, I realised she just finds people who won't fight back. Then she pulled out her phone and opened a file. Kara's texts, screenshots of payment receipts, a photo of a signed receipt forged, my name. Zoe leaned in. She used your name when she returned a curling iron set at a salon, said she was your assistant. That was it. The nail in the coffin. She wasn't just taking money. She was using my identity, my name, my reputation. The next day I updated the police report. Filed the new documents under supporting evidence. Detective Malik called within hours. We'll need statements from Zoe and your aunt. This isn't just personal anymore, it's criminal misrepresentation. There's a pattern here. That word again, pattern. I used to think betrayal came in a big moment, some screaming match, a huge argument. But now I saw it differently. Betrayal is quiet. It's in the little things, the unchecked lies, the forgotten repayments, the favour that somehow becomes expected. And when you finally draw the line, you're the problem. I got a voicemail from Mum that night. Her voice was soft, teary. Trevor, I just don't understand how we got here. We were a family. Families don't call the police. They talk. They forgive. I saved it. Not because I planned to reply, but because it reminded me of all the times I forgave and they mistook it for weakness. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from the district attorney's office. Formal charges pending. The case would be reviewed by a judge for pre-trial consideration. If I agreed, Cara could face penalties, likely probation, maybe restitution. I had the power to move forward or to let it go. It weighed heavy. This wasn't just revenge. It was justice. But justice isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about boundaries. So I sat with it, prayed on it, talked to Grandma. Her answer, do whatever gives you peace, not permission. That weekend, I sent Cara one final message. The report is filed. The evidence is strong. You've used my name, my money, and my trust. I've stayed silent for years. I won't anymore. If you accept responsibility and repay what you stole, I'll request leniency. If not, this goes as far as it needs to. Either way, this is the last time I protect you from your own behaviour. She didn't reply, but her lawyer did. A week later, I received a notice of repayment for $200 wired to my account. Marked restitution, final. No apology, no explanation, just acknowledgement. I didn't celebrate. I didn't cry. I just exhaled. Because for once I didn't fold. The payment cleared on a Monday. For $200. The same amount they used without permission. Labelled restitution, final. No note, no apology, just a cold digital receipt. And you know what? That was fine. Because I wasn't waiting for an apology anymore. I was waiting for peace. And this was it. 3 days later, I packed up what was left in my apartment, the last shoebox of memories I hadn't sorted through. Old birthday cards from Mum, a photo of Cara and me as kids laughing in the pool, a thank you note I'd once written her after she helped me move. She never wrote one back. I read the card, then set it down. 'Cause nostalgia is tricky. It can make you grieve things you never really had. That weekend I took a trip out of town. Nothing big, just a quiet bed and breakfast 2 hours away. I sat on the back porch drinking coffee as the sun came up over the hills. No phone buzzed. No voice demanded my attention. No guilt hovered like fog. It hit me then, this was the first time in years I'd woken up without a to-do list tied to someone else's disaster. Just me. Just stillness. A few days later I got a call from Grandma. Your cousin Liam stopped by, she said. He brought flowers. Everything okay, I asked. He just wanted to say thank you. He said you showed him it's okay to stop pretending everything's fine when it's not. That made me pause. Because I never thought of myself as an example. Just someone who finally got tired of carrying everyone else's mess. You know, Grandma added for a long time the family treated silence like loyalty. But what you did, speaking up, that was real love. It forced the truth out. I swallowed hard. I didn't feel like love. It rarely does, she said, until you're on the other side of it. Meanwhile, Cara's world got quiet. Her social media went dark. No more beach selfies. No more inspirational captions about growth. I'd heard through the grapevine that her friend group shrank fast once the truth came out. Turns out people don't like realising their fun friend was spending borrowed money. Uncle Ron sent me a message out of the blue. We should have seen it sooner. I'm sorry, Trevor. I didn't respond, but I didn't block him either. Sometimes people grow. Sometimes they just want closure. I wasn't angry. I just didn't need anything more from him. Then came the unexpected twist. One morning I got a knock on my new apartment door. I opened it and there was my dad, hands in his pockets, looking older than I remembered. Hey, he said. Hey, can I come in? I stepped aside, unsure why. He sat down, looked around the room, then said, You live quiet now. I nodded. I like it. He took a breath. Your mother's not doing well with all this. She says you've shut everyone out. I didn't say anything. He added, I came to ask if you'd ever forgive us. I leaned back, folded my arms. I already have, I said, but that doesn't mean I forget. He looked confused. So, what now? Now I stood. Now I keep living, without chaos, without guilt, without pretending you didn't know what was happening while I was being drained dry. He opened his mouth, then shut it again. I never told Kara to use your name, he muttered. No, I said, but you stood by while she did. He nodded slowly, stood. I guess I needed to hear that. Then he left. And that was the last time I saw him. Weeks passed, then months. Life got simple. I started volunteering at a local non-profit, found a new group of friends who didn't know my baggage and didn't need to. I started dating again, not searching for someone to fill a hole, just building slowly, intentionally, with honesty, not obligation. One night I stood on my balcony as the wind rolled through the trees. I thought about everything. The years I gave without pause, the dinners I paid for and wasn't invited to, the birthdays where my gift was an invoice of guilt, and I thought about the person I was now. Not bitter, not broken, just free. Because there's a special kind of peace in realizing you weren't the problem. You were just the first one to say no. Kara never reached out again. Neither did Mom. And I stopped expecting them to. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some families don't heal, they just rearrange the silence. And that's okay. A year after everything Grandma called, said she'd updated her will, left me the house. I told her she didn't need to. She laughed. It's not about need, it's about what's right. And it's time someone who gave without asking finally got something back. I didn't cry until we hung up. The next morning I wrote a letter. Not to them. To me. Dear Trevor, you did the hard thing. You said the quiet thing out loud. You stopped trading your peace for permission. You're not the villain. You're the first crack in the wall. The one who showed others they don't have to stay buried under false love. You're not alone. Not anymore. And never again. Love the version of you that finally lived. I folded it, slipped it into the back of a journal, not as a goodbye, but as a beginning. You want to know what happened to the family? Some drifted, some changed, some kept pretending, but I stopped orbiting their world because I realized the ones who truly love you don't make you prove it by bleeding. They meet you where you are and build something better with you. And now I only build with people who see me. Not just when they need something, but when they have nothing to gain. I was never just the responsible one, I was the foundation. And when I walked away, they finally saw what they stood on and what they lost. Story 3. When my brother called 3 days before Easter, he didn't even fake excitement. Hey, just letting you know, no plans this year. Weather's looking nasty. Mom doesn't want to risk anything. That was it. Not a hint of regret, not even a pause to ask how I'd been, just a sentence as flat as day-old soda. I stared at my phone, still pressed against my ear, waiting for him to say more, but he didn't. Line went dead. I was supposed to believe they were cancelling Easter dinner because of clouds. I knew it wasn't the weather. It was me. They'd stopped pretending I mattered. I let it go, or tried to. Ordered takeout, booked a movie for one. I told myself I didn't need them, not their ham, their casserole, their fake hugs. I had my own life now, a good job, my own place, no debt, no drama. But 20 minutes later I made the mistake of opening Instagram, and there it was. A table set for 12, my mother sitting at the head, laughing over a glass of white wine, my brother carving into a golden brown turkey, my sister-in-law beaming in a brand new floral dress, my cousin, her new fiancé, even Aunt Mel, who hasn't left her neighbourhood in 5 years, smiling in the background. Every single one of them, except me. The caption, family is everything, Naksh Easter together, blessed beyond measure. Something inside me turned, not hurt, not rage, something sharper, like the cold realization that you're not just overlooked, you've been replaced. I called my brother again. This time he answered. Yeah. You said there were no plans. I said, my voice calm but cutting. You told me Easter was off. A pause. Then it was Mom's call. She said it'd be easier this way. Easier for who? Before I could ask, he added, look, it's not a big deal. You've been kind of distant. Nobody wanted drama. Then came the final nail. You're more of a visitor these days anyway. A visitor. That word stayed in my head like a bell that wouldn't stop ringing. He was still talking when I opened the app on my phone. the one tied to the car I paid for in his name. Insurance, title, monthly payments, all me. While he rattled off whatever justification he'd rehearsed, I pressed list for sale, entered the VIN, set the price low. Click, confirm. He found out when the tow truck showed up the next day. But if you think this story started at Easter, you'd be wrong. That was just the spark. The fire had been waiting for years. I've been the family's invisible backbone since I was 22. It started when Dad lost his job and borrowed from my savings to keep the lights on. Then came Mum's surgery, a copay she said she'd pay back in a month. She never did. My brother Nate needed a new laptop when he went back to school. I bought it. He dropped out 2 semesters later. My sister-in-law called when their AC went out during a heat wave. I paid the repair company directly. Every favour came wrapped in guilt, not gratitude. And I kept doing it because I thought that's what family meant. But slowly they stopped asking, they just expected. No one ever asked if I was okay, if I needed help, if I was tired. They called when they needed, went silent when they didn't. Last year I paid off my dad's old sedan and registered it under my brother's name because his credit was shot. I thought it would bring us closer. It didn't. He called me the safety net with a face once at a barbecue. I laughed like it was a joke, but it wasn't. When I was 17, I got into my dream college. No one came to the orientation. Too far, Mum said. Too expensive, Dad said. Nate had a volleyball game. They sent me off with a card that read, "Do us proud." No one asked if I was scared, if I was ready, if I had enough. I graduated with honours and got a job straight out of school. I called home to share the news. They were busy that day. They never called back. Still, I sent money home, every month. Birthdays, emergencies, anniversaries, surprise vet bills, broken phones, missing rent. It didn't matter what I needed. It only mattered what I could give. And I kept giving until Easter. After I sold the car, the group chat lit up. "Nate, what the hell, man? You sold Dad's car? Mom, you're being vindictive. Dad, call me now. Sister-in-law, is this because of dinner? That's not fair to everyone else." Fair? That word, they said it like it applied to them. I didn't respond. I needed space to think. That night, I pulled out a notebook, started writing everything I'd paid for over the past 5 years. The loans, the bills, the repairs, the flights, the just this once favours. I stopped counting when I hit $36,000. That's not generosity. That's financial neglect in a family costume. The next morning, I found a message from my dad. "Let's talk this out. Family doesn't do this to each other." I replied with one line. "Exactly." Then I logged out. The morning after I sold the car, I expected fallout. I expected yelling, threats, guilt. But what I got was worse. Silence. The kind that hums like a broken wire behind the walls. You don't hear it unless you're still, and I was finally still. They didn't call right away. No screaming voicemails, no frantic texts, no drive-by visits, just radio silence, as if they were pretending it hadn't happened, as if erasing me was easier than confronting what I'd done. But by the second day, the cracks started to show. Mom sent a message. "We need to talk. This isn't how families solve problems." And then another. "You're acting like a stranger." Stranger. That word stuck in my chest, like I'd wandered too far from who they wanted me to be and was now unrecognisable. I didn't reply. That evening I saw a post on Facebook, my sister-in-law again. A photo of Nate and Dad standing beside an old lawnmower, both looking miserable. The caption read, "Trying to keep things together while others fall apart." It was vague enough to keep up the good family act, but aimed squarely at me. The comments came quickly. People forget where they come from. "You've always been the glue girl." Some folks just don't understand sacrifice. They talked like I'd abandoned them. No one asked what I'd given up, what I'd lost trying to keep them afloat. That's when I knew they weren't sorry. They were just inconvenienced. 2 days later, I got a knock on my apartment door. I peeked through the peephole. Dad. He stood there in a windbreaker, zipped up to his chin, holding nothing, no peace, offering no expression, just tired eyes and forced calm. I opened the door. He didn't wait to be invited in. "I'm not here to fight," he said, walking past me like he still lived there. "Just want to talk." I crossed my arms and leaned against the wall. He paced for a moment, then stopped near the window. "You made your point," he said. That wasn't the point, I replied. Then what was it embarrassing us? Selling the car in front of the neighbours. You think that makes you strong? No, I said. I think standing here listening to this makes me strong. He scoffed. You've changed. I nodded. I had to. He looked out the window like it had something better to say. You've always been dramatic. You internalise too much. Twist things. I laughed, low and bitter. I twisted nothing. You told me I was a guest. On Easter, after I paid for half your bills for 2 years. He turned to me arms wide. So what this is about money now? No, I said. It's about respect and the lack of it. We stood there, locked in a stare neither of us wanted to break. Finally, I asked, did you know Celia used my card for her vow renewal? He didn't flinch, didn't blink. I figured you offered. She said you wanted to surprise her. I swallowed hard. Of course she did. And the car? The one I paid for? The one you took credit for? He looked away. Do you even know how many times I covered for you? For all of you? He didn't answer. So I kept going. You let her paint me as the problem. You let them believe I didn't care. And when I finally stepped away, you acted like I betrayed you. You did, he said softly now. You walked out. No, I said. I walked back to myself. There's a difference. He stepped forward. We're your family. No, I replied. You were my responsibility, and I'm done carrying you. For a long moment he didn't move. Then he turned and walked out, same way he came in without saying goodbye. 3 nights later, Ryan Celia's now almost ex-husband messaged me again. She's spiralling. I asked what happened. Tried to open a new card. Got denied. She's blaming me. Says I let you destroy her image. I told him to get out fast. Already did. Staying at a friend's. Got my name off our lease this morning. Then he added something that hit harder than I expected. Thanks for opening the door. I wouldn't have seen it otherwise. That was the first time I realised it wasn't just me she'd fooled. It was all of us. A week passed. No word from my parents. Not even my birthday, which quietly came and went on a rainy Thursday. I spent it alone. Chinese takeout, a cheap bottle of red, no cake, no candles. And I didn't miss it. Because what do you really miss? The version of people you wish they were, or the person you had to become just to stay in their orbit. I was finally orbiting myself. And then just when I thought it was over, the envelope came. White, handwritten, no return address. Inside legal letterhead. Celia was suing me. Small claims. Emotional distress, public defamation, financial sabotage. She wanted damages, real money. All because I revealed the truth at a wedding I never wanted to pay for. I laughed for 5 full minutes. Then I called my lawyer. We'd worked together on a few business contracts. She picked up on the second ring. Tell me this isn't what I think it is, I said. She paused, read the first page I emailed. Oh, wow, she said. You pissed someone really off. Can I counter? Absolutely, she said, and you should. So I did. Everything Celia had tried to hide, I brought forward receipts, messages, bank activity, even the cancellation emails with her name on them, screenshots from the planner, testimonies from Ryan. It all went into a folder titled, Family Isn't Free. It was time they understood what it cost. The courthouse smelled like cold marble and burnt coffee. I sat in the hallway suit jacket draped over my arm, watching my sister pace like a caged animal. She was wearing a cream blouse, hair curled, and enough perfume to choke a jury. Celia had dressed for sympathy. But I had something better than sympathy. I had receipts. Ryan sat beside me in silence, scrolling through his phone. He'd agreed to testify. He wasn't even bitter, just tired, done. I envied that kind of calm. I was still learning how to breathe through betrayal. Celia's lawyer arrived 5 minutes before the hearing. Slim guy, red tie, looked like he had 3 identical suits and never read a soul he didn't invoice. He didn't make eye contact, just nodded once, whispered something to Celia, and they disappeared into the side room. My lawyer Stephanie leaned over and whispered, "He looks like he bills by the hour and loses by the minute." I smiled. We were called in at 9:17 a.m. The judge didn't waste time. "Miss Young," she said to Celia, "you're claiming defamation, breach of peace, and emotional trauma." "Yes, Your Honour," Celia said with practiced fragility. "My brother created a public scene at a private event. He shared private messages, shamed me, and caused financial loss due to his actions." The judge nodded once. "Do you have evidence?" Her lawyer cleared his throat and held up a folder. We've prepared a brief with social media posts, text messages between Mr. Young and his sister, and photos from the event. The judge took the folder, flipped through it without much interest. Then she turned to us. Mr. Young, your response. Stephanie stood. Your Honour, we have a counterclaim. Fraudulent charges made to my client's bank account by the plaintiff totalling over $8,200. We've included full financial documentation, vendor receipts, communications from the event planner, and a statement from the plaintiff's husband confirming unauthorised use. She slid a thick binder across the desk. The judge raised an eyebrow. Stephanie continued, in addition, we're filing a counter for intentional misrepresentation and misuse of identity. The judge opened the binder. It was thick, heavy. She took her time flipping through it. Celia's eyes flicked from the judge to me, her face twitching with every new page turned. Finally, the judge set it down. Miss Young, she said, voice sharper now, is this true? Celia's voice cracked. It was a misunderstanding. The judge frowned. $8,000 worth of misunderstanding. Celia didn't answer. Ryan shifted in his seat. Stephanie motioned to him. Your Honour, may we have Mr. Ryan speak? The judge nodded. Ryan stood, slowly walked to the front and faced the court. I didn't know what was happening at first, he said, calm and clear, but she told me the card belonged to a family fund, that her brother set it up to support big family events. I believed her. I was wrong. He glanced at Celia, then added, when I asked questions, she told me to stay out of it, that it was none of my business. The judge tapped her pen against her pad, and then said the words I'll never forget. There's no basis for your suit, Miss Young. And based on what I've reviewed, your brother has grounds for civil damages. Celia gasped. I'm dismissing your claim. As for the counter, Mr. Young, you may proceed through small claims or private mediation. I suggest the latter. If this ends up in civil court, I suspect your sister won't enjoy the process. Bang of the gavel. Game over. Outside, Celia rushed down the courthouse steps like the air had betrayed her. Her lawyer trailed behind, already checking his phone. I didn't chase her. I wasn't here to win. I was here to end it. Ryan turned to me. She'll spin this. You know that, right? Let her, I said. Stephanie smiled, handing me a copy of the ruling. Want to frame it? I almost laughed. No, I said, but I might burn it, symbolically. That weekend I got a message from Becca, our cousin, the one who always played both sides. Celia says you hacked her planner account, that she never touched your card. I didn't even respond, just sent a screenshot. Becca replied. Okay, wow, never mind. Then came the flood. Aunt Valerie, Uncle Darren, even Grandma. Why didn't you tell us sooner? I didn't know it was that serious. She said you didn't care about us. They all believed her, for years. And now the truth was leaking through the cracks like water under a door. I didn't tell them off. I didn't gloat. I just stopped replying. If it took this long for them to ask real questions, then maybe they weren't worth answering. But Celia wasn't done. 3 days after court, I found a package on my porch. No return address. Inside a letter, in her handwriting, heavy script, dramatic loops. The paper smelled like perfume. I didn't read the whole thing, just skimmed enough to catch the line. You'll regret doing this to your own blood. And beneath it, Mum cried for 2 hours, as if guilt would glue me back together. I folded the letter once, tossed it in the trash and went for a walk. The kind where you don't check your phone, don't answer questions, don't carry the weight of other people's damage. I passed a flower shop, walked in, bought 2 sunflowers. One for my desk, one for the seat across from me. I was finally learning how to treat myself like someone I wanted to keep around. The next morning I got a text from Ryan. She tried to use my name for a new lease. I replied, You blocked her. Already done. I've got a lawyer helping me freeze any shared accounts. Smart. He sent a thumbs up, then added, Thanks again, really. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I opened my laptop, pulled up a document I'd started months ago, titled simply, Lessons I Paid For, and I started writing. Not out of spite, not for revenge, but so I'd never forget. Because forgetting, that's how they get you to fall back in line. That afternoon I got one more letter, this time from Grandma. She never chose sides, never raised her voice. She'd always played the quiet observer, but not this time. Her letter was short, just 4 lines. I saw the footage. You were calm. You were right. The family needs to sit with this, but you need to heal. At the bottom, her name, underlined twice. That's when I cried. Not the kind of cry that knocks you over, just the quiet kind. The release. The one that says, you were never crazy, they were just louder. It's been 4 months since the courtroom. 4 months since Celia's lawsuit collapsed, since the vow renewal turned into a public therapy session, since I stopped trying to play the good son and just started being me. I still get voicemails. Not from Celia anymore, she went full nuclear and blocked me after the judge laughed at her lawyer, but from my parents, my mum mostly. The last one was on Father's Day. You should be ashamed, he's your father, he deserved better. I deleted it without listening to the rest. I didn't feel ashamed, not anymore. He didn't deserve better, he just expected me to never stop giving. Turns out when you finally say no, the people who only saw you as a resource treat you like a traitor. But a strange thing happened after I cut them off. The world didn't fall apart, mine started coming together. I found a rhythm. Mornings started with real breakfast and music not dread and Venmo notifications. I joined a climbing gym, not because I wanted to get in shape, but because I liked the idea of learning how to hold myself up when things got steep. I started saying yes to things just because they sounded like me. Book clubs, late-night tacos, a weekend road trip to nowhere with 3 people I'd met twice but already trusted more than my family. Freedom wasn't loud, it didn't announce itself. It just showed up in the quiet moments, the soft ones, the ones that no longer hurt. About a month ago I got an unexpected call. Ryan again. He was back in his old town finishing his divorce paperwork. He sounded good, lighter. I owe you dinner, he said. No drama, just gratitude. We met up at this tiny Thai place tucked behind a hardware store. He'd grown a beard. I barely recognized him. I'm learning how to be boring again, he said, half laughing, and it feels amazing. I knew what he meant. There's a specific kind of peace that comes after chaos, the kind that doesn't need to be explained to anyone. You just live it. He handed me a small envelope before we left. Inside a check. My half of the venue, plus the hotel charges. I tried to push it back, but he shook his head. You were never the villain, he said. You just stopped playing the fool. Later that week, I visited Grandma. Not out of obligation, just because I wanted to. She was sitting on her porch, sipping iced tea, a crossword in her lap. She didn't mention Celia. Didn't ask about the fallout. Just patted the seat beside her and said, "So what now?" I smiled Grease. She raised an eyebrow. I booked the trip, I told her. One-way ticket. You running? No, I said, I'm arriving. The night before my flight, I stood in my new apartment. No boxes, no clutter, no shadows. I had donated most of my old furniture, kept the things that felt like me, light, minimal, free. I looked around and realized something this space wasn't just mine. It reflected me. The version of me that wasn't twisted by guilt, the version that didn't flinch every time someone said family and meant debt collector. I poured a glass of wine, opened my balcony door, and watched the city flicker. Somewhere out there, I knew Celia was probably still rewriting the story. Telling people I was cold, bitter, selfish. Maybe my parents were doing the same. Let them. Because the thing about walking away is that people don't get to follow you into peace unless they've earned it. And they hadn't. I landed in Athens on a bright Tuesday afternoon. Warm air, loud street strangers who didn't care about your family tree or whether you showed up to Easter. I didn't have a plan. Just a week in a seaside Airbnb, a camera, and the promise I made to myself months ago, never go back to who I had to be just to survive. One morning I woke early, walked down to the docks, and watched the fishermen return with their nets. An old man with sea-worn hands asked if I wanted a coffee. I said yes. We sat without speaking for a long time, sipping dark, bitter espresso while the ocean sighed behind us. It was the best conversation I'd had in years. I still think about Celia sometimes. Not out of anger, just reflection. I wonder if she believes her own stories, if she's convinced herself that I'm the reason everything fell apart. But then I remember things don't break when you walk away. They break when the weight of pretending becomes too heavy to hold. I was never the hammer, I was the load bearer, the scaffolding. And when I stepped away, the whole thing collapsed, because I was the only thing holding it up. A few weeks into my trip, I received a letter forwarded from my old apartment. It was from my mother. No return address, just her handwriting on the envelope. Inside, a single photograph. Me, maybe 10 years old, standing next to a birthday cake, beaming. Celia behind me, smiling too. On the back, written in shaky ink, "We thought you'd always be there." That was it. No apology, no warmth, just that one sentence, as if I was the one who disappeared without reason. I sat with it for a long time, then I tore the photo in half. Not in rage, not as revenge, but as closure. Sometimes you don't need an apology. You just need to stop carrying the weight of a story that was never fair. A week later, I was sitting on the balcony of my Airbnb journal open when I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Hi, I'm Callie. I saw your story shared by someone online. Your words helped me walk away too. Just wanted to say thank you." It wasn't much, but it was enough. That's when I realized the truth. This story, it was never just mine. There are thousands of us, quiet ones, givers, people who've spent years being the scaffolding for others' dreams, who get called selfish the moment we say no. So here's what I'll say to you. If you're one of us, you're not broken. You're not too sensitive. You're not wrong for finally choosing yourself. Walking away doesn't make you the villain. It makes you the survivor. And sometimes that's the loudest love story of all.